Hello, Vanakkam, and welcome to Reimagining Food Systems with Future Farms. And we have Preeta here from Future Farms, and I'm Ms. Shireen, and I'm very excited to welcome all of you. We have Woonji from NHS to represent to represent AISC and to join us in the session. And we have Lekna who will be helping me moderate this session. Thank you both. A couple of things to remember in this session is please put your microphones on mute so that we all get to listen to what Ms. Preeta has to say. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and we will have them answered at the end of the session. And for best view, please keep the screen in the speaker view mode. I would like to introduce Future Farms. Since its beginning in 2014, Future Farms has focused on creating access to fresh and healthy produce for city dwellers using hydroponic farms. They bring the best agri-technologies from around the world and grow tasty, fresh greens, making farm to table a reality for Chennaiites. We welcome Ms. Preeta to share how anyone can be an urban farmer and to grow your own food. Welcome, Preeta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here at AISC's 25th anniversary Mela. And I'm glad you guys invited us to talk about something that's really relevant to our times. We've been trying to encourage more people to grow over the years since 2014. And it has become so relevant in the current COVID times. And this is a great opportunity for us to showcase what we've been doing, our journey, certain protocols we follow. That's actually a world-class model. It's followed in the United States of America as well, quite widely. So yeah, I think we can begin today. So I'm just going to tell you all what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to start with why urban farming. Why hydroponics specifically, followed by a quick demo on a particular hobby system that we have. And then we do a little demo that you can do at home for microgreens. So you can grow at home with the basic pantry items that you have at home. So yeah, so I'll start with urban farming. I think you all watched a video of us. If you haven't already, please watch the video on the map that's available on your site. So urban farming is not a new concept. People have been gardening, I think, since our grandparents' times. Our forefathers, our ancestors were all farmers. Most of them were farmers. Some of them turned into traders. This slowly turned into a large group of people that sort of split the entire food system into different divisions. So there's a farmer, and then there is someone who picks up the produce, and then there's a wholesaler, and then from the wholesaler there are various distribution centers, and from the distribution centers there are various retailers, and finally when it reaches you, at least 5 hands have touched your food before it reaches your plate. So when children are asked these days, where does your food come from? Is there a connect to where it's growing? Are you thinking about the farmer? Yeah, maybe they are thinking about the farmer. But the farming that we are doing now doesn't necessarily have to be the same kind of farming that our ancestors did, because our times have changed. People have lesser time now. Our soil has depleted considerably, the quality of our soil. Water, our basic resource of water, has depleted drastically. Agriculture uses literally 80% of consumption. So it's great when people say, hey, save water, turn off that tap. You know, that trickle is, there's a little trickle coming down that tap. It's great, like turn the tap off. But there's a larger consumption of water happening in farming that nobody's talking about. And that's a huge consumption, as nearly 80% of the water that's currently being used in any country is going towards farming. So why are we looking at this, right? So why are we talking about this today? So by 2050, the world's going to be at least 10 billion people. And when you are 10 billion people, how do you increase food to capacity that meets everyone? Yes, food is available, right? You have supermarkets, there's food available at plenty. But our goal here is to, at Future Farms, we've thought about clean food as a primary goal. Yes, we all have access to food. We have processed foods, we have junk foods, we have all kinds of foods available to us today, right? But what's missing? Is clean food accessible to everyone today? Can we talk about that? So there is organic farming. Everybody has heard about it. That's been a term that all of us have heard definitely at least when we look at a packaging or when we pick up produce, you have seen organic farming, right? This is organically grown. What does that mean? Organically grown means it's grown without hopefully any pesticide, using sustainable methods. So what makes us different from organic farming? There's not much of a difference in what we're doing. So I'm going to get into hydroponics now. So hydroponics is basically hydroponics means hydro means water and ponics means working with water. So this is an interesting concept. We didn't come up with it. This actually came back in the day during the Aztec times. The Aztecs actually came up with this technology. They actually floated rafts on water and grew all their crops on water. So that's one group that did it. Another group that did it is actually I'm sure you would have heard of the hanging gardens of Babylon. So that was another technique. How did these hanging gardens happen? They used the technique of hydroponics. Of course, maybe they didn't have the term hydroponics then, but they did use the same technology that we are using now back in the day. So over the years, in the last actually 1 century, there's a lot of focus on hydroponics, and in the last 10 years, it has exponentially grown across the world. India is slowly picking up. In the last 1 year, there have been more hydroponic companies in India than ever before, more hydroponic farms on the ground than ever before in urban areas. So, so one of the things we're going to talk about is hydroponics. So let's get into what it is, right? I'm not going to talk any further. I'm going to show you something. So I'm going to show you basically what hydroponics looks like. So regularly in a soil environment, you probably won't see the roots for the most part. So in hydroponics, plants grow directly in water. So we place this net pot or anything to hold it. In regular farming, you have soil, you have water, and you have the sun. There are three elements that are involved. But what happens in hydroponics? We have removed the soil element altogether. We'll explain why, right? So you'll be amazed to know soil is actually not required to grow plants. Soil is basically a media to hold the plant, right? It's holding the plant. And besides that, it offers micronutrients and macronutrients to the plants to grow. So they came up with this really cool concept where what if I made the food, the plant food available to the plants directly through water, right? And the interesting thing is, so this is where the catch is, when you do this, the water that we consume in hydroponics is up to 90% less than in traditional farming, right? In conventional farming. Why is that? Because we recirculate the water. So basically you have like a pump. It could be solar enabled. You could use so many technologies that are available to you, right? You could use solar to drive it. You use a pump to recirculate the water, and all the plant requires is the water and the plant food in the water. So I'm going to show you this particular system where we're growing this particular plant. So this is what we're growing. We're growing actually lettuce in Chennai. That's what we talked about. How are we growing lettuce in Chennai? I'm going to give you a little demo. So we have romaine here. So we've done a multi-seed in this. You see red lettuce here. You see romaine here. And I think there's green lettuce somewhere here. I think probably that guy didn't come out yet. So yeah, this is a multi-seed. So we put multiple seeds in one go. It's been moved from the nursery to the grow stage. So here's the thing about, I've talked about the advantages of hydroponics. So one, we talked about being able to save up to 90% water. That's like a huge save. Like nobody wants to waste water anymore. And we have to find, especially in a country like India, currently, and in all nations actually, it matters to every nation. We are particularly interested in this because we are running out of our clean drinking water. And where we can save water, we should not be using it, because what happens in conventional farming is there's water runoff. Plants don't necessarily take up the water, take up the nutrients directly. They go searching for the water. So the water gets into the soil and it goes to wherever it needs to, right? It goes right to the ground. Great, it happens. But what do the plants do now? They go looking for the water, because only the water allows them to take up the nutrients. Water allows for plant food to be taken out. So what we do here is we've made water readily available. There are many technologies in hydroponics. The one that we're seeing here, particularly for leafy vegetables, leafy greens, is nutrient film technique. This is like a thin film of water that's running in this pipe here, in this channel. So this thin film of water is what is carrying the plant food and is readily available to the plants. There's no discrimination. Every plant gets the same amount of food that the other plant gets. This won't necessarily happen in a soil environment. One, because each plant has its own, the soil there would be more nutrients in one space, there's no nutrients in another space. So that's why you see like a varied sort of growth in a soil environment. Here you don't have that, because water goes across the board and there's no discrimination at all. The second thing is, because it's the coolest part, right? I didn't talk about that. The coolest part is there is no pesticide used in this particular type of farming, because all hydroponics is usually happening in a closed environment space. So it could happen like in a greenhouse where there's an insect net, so the insects don't come in. They're going about their job, they're doing their work outside, and we're happy doing our work inside, right, in the greenhouse. The second part is like you can grow it at home by your windowsill. You can grow it like pretty much anywhere actually in a closed environment where you don't have airborne pests. There are no soil-borne pests because we are not using soil. So that's the cool part. There is zero pesticide used in these environments. And in a greenhouse, you can even control. So the farmer really gets to tweak the environment. So let's say, we've set up farms across India. So we've set up a farm. Obviously, we have farms in Chennai where it's humid, it's really hot, it's sweaty. So there are all plants, just like us, have like a certain need, right? All of them, each plant has a certain need and they all work just like us. They have a pH reason, like we drink a certain value of pH. I'm sure you've heard of pH. So we drink water that's a certain pH. So what happens with plants? Plants also require a certain pH. So in a hydroponic farm, it doesn't work like a regular farm where the farmer has to go, he needs to weed, he or she needs to go do all the laborious work that's there, go till the soil, go take his cows out into the soil. None of that happens. All the urban farmer has to do, he or she wakes up in the morning, picks up the cycle or the bike or whatever, or goes up to the rooftop, and all you got to do is step in, check if your plants are okay. You look at your plants, you feel happy. Second, you look at the operationally, is it all okay? You check the pH of the water, you check the EC of the water, and it's as simple as that, right? So once that's done, all you got to do is check if everything is okay, or there are some tweaks. All you have to do is add the right nutrients. And once you add the right nutrients, the plant food that is, plants require 3 kinds of food. That is nitrogen, potassium, and that is NPK. All of them are available in soil currently, but they're available in varying degrees. That's why you see deficiencies or you don't. Here you know exactly the amount of NPK that you actually put in your thing and you can control it. Second, they require secondary nutrients. So this is primary nutrients. There are secondary nutrients, and then there are micronutrients. Micronutrients are stuff like zinc, magnesium, little things like that, most, in a soil environment, you really can't control it. It's going to happen. And then stuff like fertilizers happen in big time, right? So we can actually control the amount of input being used. So the farmer saves on resource. He or she doesn't need to spend that much amount of money on a fertilizer, because you know exactly what you're going to use. And just like a factory runs, I know it sounds bad when you say a factory, right? You don't want your plants coming from a factory, but this is a different kind of factory. Basically, why should a farmer have to work that much more just because you want clean food? Right? You want to make everyone's life good. You want to add value to everyone's life. So we're thinking, we feel this is like a great way to go, because anyone, you know, whether you're older, whether you're a really young person, even a child, because it's that accessible, a farm, a physically challenged person, anyone can work in an urban farm. And you know, there are questions of you bend in work, you have to have physical abilities that are going to stop it. None of that matters here, because most of the work is already being done, and all you have to do is operational checks on the farm. It is a safe environment, and you wear a mask. So the great thing about this is we've always followed protocols. There are gap protocols set by the world, the Agricultural Board. USDA follows it quite strictly as well. So basically, it's the good agricultural practices. So it is very easy to follow these gap policies in a greenhouse hydroponic environment. And that way, the food that comes out at the end of it is just great food. It's not only is it fresh, because you can pretty much harvest that morning and have it on your plate within hours of harvesting. The second thing is it's clean. You know where your food is coming from. There is zero pesticide on it, zero insecticide or any other kind of side on it. And the third thing is you're doing good for the planet. No bug was hurt during the making of this plant. Of course, you know where your food comes from. That's pretty much it. So this is one of the systems. I'm just going to explain a little about it. Like I said, it's an NFP, which is a nutrient filling technique. So pretty much all you have to do is, there's always a net pot involved, and this net pot allows for roots to come out. You see that? So the whiter the root is, the healthier the plant is. That's what you notice, because in a soil environment, you'll see a lot of like brown stuff happening in the roots, or maybe there could be root rot. Here in this case, so you want to see really clear roots. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, really clear root system. And yeah, so you can study your plant. If you see some deficiencies, all you have to do is eyeball it. You're looking at your plant and you're taking a call on a daily basis as to what you can do with it. You can tweak it, you can play with it, you can do what you want, right? And that's the cool part about it, because there's a lot of science to this and it's super interesting. There's stuff about humidity, there's stuff about the temperature. There's so many things playing a role here. So the more you actually read up on it about a climate controlled environment related to plants, it's really cool. I mean, I'd like you all to go check it out, because it's an interesting subject of its own. I won't get into it because it's really deep, and you can go as far as you want to. There's IoT involved. There's so many cool things currently involved in it. So we'll leave it at that for now. You can use your phone to control your your system here. This is the reservoir. So this reservoir pretty much holds the water up to a certain limit. You will not be using it more than like, once a month you're going to refill the water. Due to evaporation, water could leave your bucket. So this reservoir, in a larger farm, you'll have a larger reservoir of water, probably a tank. And that tank is the one that's going to keep recirculating the water throughout the farm. I'm also going to show you like a pump. This pump system is the one that's in this, and pretty much this runs on its own, this entire thing. So what we're currently growing here is, I'm going to show you. This is like a tatsoi. It's an Asian green. Some people think it's bok choy as well, but it's tatsoi. This is beautiful because stem to leaf, it's great to eat. We have a purple basil. So like if you want to tweak the color of a plant, like if you want more red on the red lettuce, there are certain things you can do to make that happen with certain nutrients, because it wants that nutrient for it to turn red. Uh, and this one's everyone's favorite. This is Italian basil. I wish you could smell it. This is like probably the freshest Italian basil you could find in the city. Uh, if you're not growing it at home already, that is. So yeah. Yeah, so there are different seeds that we use, right? So this is like a red lettuce, plain red lettuce that we use. So yeah, this is some of the stuff. The other stuff that you could grow is spinach. You can grow amaranth. You can grow, I think, bamboo kangkong. A lot of Asian greens. We've specifically built this for the tropical environment because it works for us. So it pretty much works for any Southeast Asian country now. There are technologies working for like cold weather as well. So that requires an environment which is heated. A lot more energy is used there because you need to heat the space. But it is cool because anywhere in the world now you can grow fresh green produce and you don't need to ship it. The most important part I think I didn't talk about was the fact that in the current situation, I think we went through a lockdown all over the world, and I think there was a lot of supply chain issues. People didn't get their food on time. They didn't know when it was going to come. There was a lot of scare, right? This is when I think growing closer plays a huge role, because when you grow closer, there is not that much. Things don't need to get air freighted down. Things don't need to move like miles. They don't need to be stored in warehouses. Food waste is reduced drastically because a lot of stuff that we take from the soil is wasted because they grade it. There is no grading here because everything that you grow is great quality stuff. They don't throw it out. There's no soil there. It's not dirty. It's not small. None of that is happening here because there's like, I think out of all the harvest that happens, literally 90% of the food that comes in gets dumped. And that's like a huge loss, right? For the farmer, that's a huge loss. The inputs that have gone in, it's a huge loss. For people, I think it's a huge loss. Why aren't we having more access to great quality food? So yeah, these are like some of the interesting things about it, which makes us super passionate about it. And all of us on the team, I didn't get to have them on board today, but we're super passionate about it because we are seeing the end result, and we're seeing people, or I'm seeing my own 5-year-old getting to eat this stuff, and I feel safe. I feel good about it, and being able to see plants, I think, is sort of like a great feeling. I'm sure you'll agree. So that's one part of it. Do we have a little more time?
Right now, I would recommend moving on to a little bit of Q&A. There's
Yeah, sure, we can.
Meghna at our session. She has a few questions. And participants, if you have any questions, please type them on. If there's something specific that you would like Preeta to address, please put them into the chat box. We will answer your questions the best we can.
Okay. Hi, Miss.
Hi.
Okay, so I mean, sustainable farming is obviously really important for our future, especially as we move into a more sustainable society. I was wondering about, since in your video you mentioned that you guys have a greenhouse, and I read that greenhouses tend to use a lot more energy consumption. So do you guys have any are you using towards more clean energy or like?
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, that's what I talked about. So in a tropical environment, there's actually no use of energy. Greenhouses in cold climates need to use heating technology, and they can't obviously use solar because sun is not available. Because I think plants prefer warmer climates. They don't prefer the cold. They tend to like a temperature at a certain at a certain range. Of course, there are different types of plants that require different things, but it's not drastically different from the other in terms of food that we eat. So they would probably use it minimally. Like let's say in the summer, they would probably reduce the certain energies that they use. Like there would be more efficiency then. Probably in winters, they'll have to use a heater or some such technology to heat the space. But greenhouses in general don't require energy to grow. And these are these kind of greenhouses, right? We're not talking about these large scale commercial greenhouses. We're talking about urban greenhouses where it's a lot more decentralized. So we're not talking about one place where everything is grown. We're talking about small spaces where everything is grown, and these small spaces sort of like are centrally brought together. So that way you're distributing the food and not having everything in one place. So there is an issue with one space, you always have the other. So we are getting more people to grow, more people to set up smaller spaces like this than to have one large setup where everything happens in one place. Decentralized sort of growing would be the best way to solve such problems.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Anything else?
I have another question about
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
So I know that in traditional methods, after like technological revolutions in the agricultural industry, like a lot of farms are able to produce a lot more food per like acre. And I know that it's with like more sustainable methods like organic farming that yield decreases. So do you guys have like a method of like maintaining that yield or like making sure that the production meets the needs?
Yeah, so a really great question. So we, I mean, personally for us at Future Farms, since we now started a division where we have a consumer facing product as well called Freshlings, we thought of it a little differently. We thought, why go the retail way, right? Retail doesn't allow us to see customers directly. And there's a lot of, again, we don't have a control over what gets sold, what doesn't get sold. It goes to waste in most cases. It's not like it's distributed again. So you have to go across many retail stores to be able to get those few customers who will actually pick up the produce. The rest, we don't know, it gets dumped. So what we've done is we've thought of it as a subscription where we thought, why don't we grow for people? Like I think it needs to change from the demand. Demand needs to come in, right? We need to understand what people want. If you want it, we will make it for you. Instead of we just make a lot and then, we ask you to buy. But I mean, then it's like a forced sort of thing, right? So here we're saying we want to know, do you want us to grow for you? Sure, we subscribe. Or I think more people should think of this differently. How we can solve the problem. This is one way. I'm sure there are many other ways to solve it. Instead of grow and supply and not know where it's going, why doesn't the demand say, hey, I want this, I know I need these things, and we'll grow it for you. So just like artisanal stuff, right? They only do the milling of the flour at the time you need it, or you grind the coffee only when you need it. You grow your crop only when you need it, right? So I know in advance, I have this many people who need it, and I will grow for you. So that kind of solves the problem as well. When farmers know for sure there's a demand there and they don't grow just for the sake of growing. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a really cool method because it's very different from what a lot of other sustainable farms are doing.
Thank you.
And Mr. Reniger, thank you so much for your comment. He says, great presentation coming from a farm background. I know what you're talking about, and especially that we have to rethink how to grow vegetables more efficiently and more eco-friendly. And he says, thanks for showing efforts into this.
Thank you so much.
I think we have 1 more minute. If there's any more questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask Preeta yourself.
So if you guys haven't already watched the video, please do watch it. We're Future Farms, and we run a consumer-based, consumer-facing brand that's called Freshlings. You can catch us on Instagram. We pretty much grow and sell the produce that you see here, bok choy and the rest of it, lettuce, and that's how you get lettuce in Chennai.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, Preeta. Thank you for coming. And our next session, we have 2 more live sessions, Global Adjustments, and we have Tree Foundation. They're going to talk about their turtle conservation. See you all there. Enjoy your Mela. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you
in.
guys. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.